All right, plugin makers, drum plugin sequencer, whoever, pay attention because this is probably the hottest drum sequencer I think that I have used up until this point, both on iPad, by far on iPad, and also on the computer. Yes, I'm talking about everything that I've used. This thing is probably like one killer iPad app next to Drambo has or the iPad has another one. Buttersynth is pretty cool. But this is by far like my favorite sequencer for drums that I've ever used. And if you know me, I don't really use drum sequencers. I use like audio and make swingy beats and stuff. But this has almost everything. It's almost perfect. The only thing that I can say is that I reached out to this company and I still haven't got a response after 2 weeks later. So that would have been cool. But ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, this is Patterning 3 on iOS. It's $30. You need it. Well, you don't need it, but it's pretty dang sick. Why do I like this thing? This is the one thing, like this is the one drum sequencer that has catered towards people that make beats that are sloppy, off time, that are like weird and not just conformative to, oh, let's make a techno beat. No shade to all of those YouTubers that just make techno. That's fine. But this is way different. This is way beyond and very advanced. It's not perfect. There are some things that I don't like about it, but I want to focus on the things that I do like about it, and then I'll talk about the things that I'd like to see improved at the end of the video. So my name is Alckemy, and if you are brand new to the channel, this is a very quick demo of something that I threw together in like 10 minutes. Super cool, very simple, but very fun to throw together, and it has all these cool rhythmic things that we can utilize. So what is this? Let's go ahead and open up a new thing, and this is going to kind of give you a glance of what all these features do. I think that there's a little bit too many to kind of talk about in order to kind of explain stuff, but basically we have 8 different samples that all have their own drum pattern rhythms or rhythm circles, right? So I want to kick on the 1. We can change the velocity to here. Let's say we want something like that. We want something like that. Then we can grab a snare, put that on the 2s. And now we've got change the tempo here. Now, that's all cool, right? You can do that with all of these. If we go into this tab that is the second to the left, we have the step duration, so we can change that into the way that this is divided. We can also change the standard mode and say, okay, well, I want however many steps per measure, which is really cool. We have this auto rotate where it'll do it on its own. We have playback modes, which I would like to see more playback modes. That would be cool. But basically you have something that would go forward if you watch. Then we also have something that can like kind of pendulum, I think. And I want to say that's pendulum too. And then we have something that's earn. I don't actually know what that means. Maybe that's random, I think, which is kind of cool. But we have this offsetting here, which will take the entire wheel, either by steps or whatever, and allow you to rotate this. And I haven't used this in Drambo yet, but I'm almost curious to see if you can kind of map that to a CC to see if you can rotate that. But what you can do is basically, like, this is your track delay here. You can also set it early. Now, the other thing that is cool is that if you go to the swing and chords, you've got a huge array of different swing types, and you kind of do it intuitively based off of this guy here, to where you can kind of set stuff to either nudge closer together, kind of like so, or you can move stuff out over time and then set where you want this initially, which I've never seen any swing options like this before, and that's pretty cool. Now, initially, I didn't know that this was a thing, but one of the biggest, like, initial gripes that I had was like, oh man, there's no like individual step nudging. Well, guess what? I was wrong, because if you go over to this tab, you've got your nudge right here to where you can offset each individual step either early or late. So if you want to make your snares early, you can do that. Super early. That's so cool. And that gives you pretty much everything that you need in order to make those kinds of beats that you might want to, you know, utilize, especially if you're somebody like me that likes to make halftime, you like to make all of this other stuff. But that's not all of the features that this has to offer, which we'll get into now. As you can see, we've got very basic like options with this, with like filtering and reverb and delay. You also have basic sample mangling. Nothing to write home about, I'd say, but it does do its job to where you can change the course tuning and all that. One cool, really cool feature, but one really cool thing that I do like about this is that on the last tab of the RM/dist, you have a ring mod mix. So if you wanted to basically make your, I don't know, drum sounds have a little bit more variety, then you've got just some decent drum shaping stuff that you can apply. That's really cool. This is really meant to be a sequencer. If anything, like even though you load samples into this, like this is meant for sequencing stuff. And I'll talk more about that here in just a second. But on top of that, if you go into this here, you do have two LFO layers that you can set. I would like to see a smooth random because right now the random that they have, I'm glad they have one at all, but it's only a stepper. But smooth random would be nice. But because of this, over on your modulations tab here, you can set all of these different things based off of whether or not you want to randomize it, like initially. So playback, trigger, randomize, LFO1, LFO2, and then you have things that you can map to a Midi CC, which is also pretty cool, although that seems a little bit overkill. I almost never do that kind of stuff because it's just way more time than what it's worth. But all of that, nudging, probability, ratchet count, like it's got everything. It has everything, which leads me to my biggest gripe about this. There's no Midi export. So it's kind of like, I wish that there was one or the other. Midi export would be great, so that way I can just send this to the computer and throw this into something like Atlas or EXO, or, you know, heaven forbid, I'd still probably use samples, but this is great for just crafting and like beat practice, I would say. The other thing is the sample management that you have. I'm not upset about only having 8 sounds here, but when it comes into the sample management, if you import stuff, you can open stuff, but if you import stuff, it creates a copy, and I would just like some kind of, I don't know, like AI thing that will go through and read all of your kicks and samples and stuff. And I know that's not trying to compete with that, but just imagine. It's almost like every single drum thing has one really cool thing about it that makes it worth owning. And then another one comes out that does something different, and you're like, ah, that's really cool, but I wish it did the thing of the thing that I bought. And this is no different. The other thing that would be really cool is if this had a loop slicer. And there are a couple of loop slicers available on iPad, but that's why I would like just the regular MIDI out thing, which, to be fair, excuse me, there is a MIDI control here to where you can send MIDI out, and then if you have something external, you can record that. I just don't want to set it up because that's a lot of work. It's almost like too much work for me to be bothered by it. I'd rather just use this as a practice tool and then like be like, okay, I know where this is supposed to be as a reference, and then just go and lay it down with audio than to try to like incorporate this into my workflow. But as a means of having a comprehensive like sequencer, I just, yeah, this thing is so cool. You have different patterns. You have arrangement mode here to where you can set different seeds and all that other stuff. If you want to technically, quote unquote, write a whole beat, I wouldn't recommend that because I need more drum sounds than 8. One thing that you could do, and this is just why I don't like working in MIDI because I like resampling and stuff, but one thing that you could do is have this set up and have maybe like just a set of kicks and snares, and then on a second track, perhaps on Drambo or iPad, Logic for iPad or Cubases or whatever it is that you use, Loopy Pro, heaven forbid. Good luck. I'm just kidding. But yeah, Loopy Pro is cool. It's just hard to work with my workflow. But yeah, then you can set that to percussion and snares and stuff and have a wide variety of all that. So long story short, this thing rocks. I think this is so kick-ass. You can have different patterns. You can have different measurements and stuff. You can have, you know, different copies of this. And there's a lot to get into, but it's very easy to understand. But really just the whole approach to how this works with the steps and the knob working and like the offset and all that. This, as you can tell, I'm super jazzed about. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to tell you about this other than maybe the effects section, which you can also use and have a step mode on. You do have alternates, which you can do if you want. You've also got fill modes. I don't ever use that because I'm more concerned just with the placement of things as opposed to trying to use it as a performance tool, although I'm sure you could. You have general filtering and stuff that you can do, distortion, delay, Wait, this one's delay, reverb, distortion, general compression. I actually didn't know that. I just found that. That's cool. And yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily call this like your one-stop shop to making your drums like super fat and all that stuff. I would say if they had like a clipper or something, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I think that it would be nice to be able to, you know, have this be able to shape your drums and then sequence them. But for me, I would love to see this kind of incorporate more options for sample exploration and just getting your samples here. Oh, which does remind me to perhaps one of the most important things, which I also realize, is that there is a community based feature in here in case if you need new drum sounds. How could I forget this? So there's a cloud system here called Cloud Kits, which are all free, but I think that the reason why they're free is because they're community uploaded. So all of these people here, including Olympia Noise Co., which are the people that made this, have these kits that you can just download and pull up to your cloud. I'm currently working on a couple from my latest sample pack, Abyss, which the sounds that I was playing at the beginning, those were all my sounds and stuff, which if you need sounds for this, go get my sample pack for 20 bucks. It's got over 900 sounds in it. But yeah, there's over like 70 something kits in this, which I think that I've downloaded them all because I can never have enough drums. Some people have uploaded like weird stuff like melodies and kind of otherworldly samples and stuff, which is cool. But yeah, I mean, isn't that a cool idea? I think that this was developed by a single person. And if not, this person has a YouTube channel or the developer has a YouTube channel to which they go over some of these features. But this is such a win for the community. This is such a cool thing that I hope to see more people get involved with just because of how novel this idea is and how it can also be helpful for somebody like me who's a content creator being like, hey, here's some free sounds. And you can use that. And if you want more, like, look at this person. Mark Deluxe has their website right here with a picture of cooking with grandma. Rest in peace, grandma. I love you. But you get what I'm saying? So, like, that's a really strong thing that I think helps benefit the community, because if you're using patterning 3 with my sounds, then we both win. And if you're getting the music that you want, you know, also for you, you get to benefit as well, because you get access to free new kits that are made by other artists. Right? Like, this is like the antithesis of Splice, in my opinion. Yeah, it's not perfect. I would love to see more growth and manipulation with this of some of the other things, but boy, is this a fun tool. And this is the only thing that I have had this much confidence in talking about in terms of like drums and whatnot. So yeah, patterning 3, iPad only, unfortunately not for iOS. I would love this for iOS, but it's probably too big of the interface. You'd probably be too difficult to work with on a smaller screen. There could be an option for that, but I don't know. But I'm going to stop talking because I've said everything that I wanted to say. This is a win for me. I would recommend it 100%. Alckemy.com.